Hey everybody, Angelic here, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I know it's been a couple months since I last uploaded a video, but I finally got the time to get this video going for Too Late by Colleen Hoover, so it is going to be a book review. I do have some plans to drop some other videos throughout this week that I'm going to be trying to film today and tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. You guys know how it is. I do make promises that I usually don't keep, so we'll see how it goes. But I read this book about like 2-3 months ago, and like I finished reading it 2-3 months ago, because I know in a previous video I had stated that I had read most of it, and there was only a couple chapters that I hadn't read back in like 2017, 2018. But when I ended up rereading it on Audible, I realized there was actually way more than a couple of chapters that I hadn't read. So there was actually like a big chunk of the book that I hadn't read, and I forgot a lot about what the book was about. So we'll start with a spoiler-free synopsis. I'll try my best to make it spoiler-free. Like I always say, I feel like the spoiler-free comment is, I feel like people might have a different opinion or different, some people might think something's a spoiler, some people might think something else is not a spoiler. So I think what I try to do is keep the synopsis as best summarized to what the author puts on the back of the book and stuff. So pretty much what Colleen, states, it's a book in a point of view of Sloane, Asa, and Carter. So I just think it's an interesting concept of reading a book through 3 point of views, one. But it's pretty much Sloane will go through hell and back for those she loves, and she does so every single day. And then it's pretty much that she's caught, alluring Asa Jackson, a notorious drug trafficker. Sloane just trying to live her life the best that she can, doing what she can to pretty much take care of her brother and stuff like that. So she pretty much has to, be involved with Asa to provide for that. And then Carter is literally like an undercover FBI agent that's trying to infiltrate Asa. So it's literally a book perspective of a victim, somebody that's not the victim, and then somebody that's on the outside of the party. And I think it's interesting to read the point of view of all 3 of them and kind of see the perspectives of each person and how they all view a certain situation. I thought that was really interesting and cool. But it's that's literally I honestly, for this book in particular, I don't know how to do a spoiler free, because I feel like anything I might bring up would literally be considered a spoiler. So I feel like, just honestly, it's a lot of trigger warnings, so definitely look into that. If a trigger warnings are something that, you have to look into, definitely look into that with this book. And I don't know, I definitely recommend it. I would give the book overall rating either a 3.5 to 4 to 5 stars. It just depends. I feel like some of it was so well done, and then some of it was just not the best. So, I mean, that's the best that I can give for a non-spoiler synopsis or review. And if you haven't read the book, I do recommend you read it. It's a really good, book by Colleen. It's definitely got some raw aspects to it, and it's just different than some of the other stuff that she wrote. So I 100% still recommend it. And like I said, if you haven't read it, you're going to want to stop watching this video at this point, because I'm going to get into the nitty-gritties of all the damn details with this one. Because this book, I feel like we started just driving up, and then it was just a roller coaster from the rest of the book. So I'm gonna have to get into the spoilers. So if you haven't stopped watching, stop watching now. I gave you your last warning. All right. I think with this book, the most thing that I have to talk about is how fucking crazy Asa is. I don't think I've ever, and I'm saying this as somebody who's read the book Verity by Colleen Hoover, I have never met a character more crazier in my entire life. I remember making TikToks. I was filming my reaction as I read, or as I would listen to certain scenes on Audible and shit. And when I tell y'all, I repeatedly told myself that Asa was giving Verity a run for her money, because holy shit, is that boy crazy? There's something, something about being in Asa's head when he's the abuser, and then him trying to justify, he really thinks what he's doing is okay. He really thinks that Sloane loves him. He thinks that what he's doing is love. He thinks he's compassionate. He thinks that what he's doing is normal. And I think there's something so psychotic and crazy about reading that point of view, and then reading, I think it's crazy to read a same situation through Salone's point of view and then reading that same situation through Asa's point of view. And it's such a different situation when you read their point of views. And I thought that was so well done by Colleen. I don't know. I thought something about like him full on seeing the situation as like a love situation, him like being affectionate to her, but then her point of view is him being manipulative, him being narcissistic, him being abusive, him being, you know, inappropriate, being way into her personal space, not understanding her boundaries or respecting her boundaries, and in his head she doesn't have any. It's just like insane to me. And the idea of Carter, aka Luke, being like a third party, somebody on the outside looking in and seeing that third party perspective of the situation was also so interesting, because he tells Salone countless times like, what you're going through is not okay, what he's doing is not okay, you deserve better, you need a better life and all that stuff. And she sometimes would like have that internal fight with like, is he right, is he wrong, I'm just so used to having to do this is what I have to do to like take care of my brother and all that shit. And the fact that he was lying about paying for the brother's medical care, the fact that like there's this book, I feel like it was one of those books, and this review is probably going to be a little rambly because it was one book that like I obviously I read it a few months ago, but I remember like as I was reading it, it kept being like it would give me oh my fucking god so many times, whether that was him fucking gluing the ring on her finger, whether that was fucking him like pretty much R.A.P. or R.I.P.ing her type shit, like him like actually thinking in his head what he was doing to her was okay and shit is literally insane. The night that she lost her virginity, literally like that's a big example of like reading the same book in two different perspectives and the situation being done so differently. I remember he would talk about that night with her and how special that was and how great it was, and then you read that night through her point of view and it's like, oh my god, he literally like raped her. He literally raped her. And she just, in her head, thought that was what it was supposed to be like and what she was supposed to do and all that stuff. And it was just like, oh my god. It was just like, I felt so bad for Salone. I felt so bad for Carter, a.k.a. Luke. I just like, and I just wanted to go through the screen and fucking fight Asa. And this book was just so good. I don't know. Asa, like, pretending faking the whole FBI thing to try to squat out who the rats were in his group, and then Carter like not even taking 2 seconds and telling him, I'm a cop, go save Salone. Oh my, it was just like, oh, it was so good. The book was, I think the book was so good. Obviously there's down points and it's really graphic and it's raw and that might not be everybody's cup of tea. I totally understand that, but like, I don't know, as I read it and I remember thinking like, holy shit, like, it's just like, I remember like just reading some of Asa's parts and I'm just like, holy shit, this man is crazy. Like, this man is actually crazy. Like, actually crazy. Like, I remember, I just kept saying that, like, oh my god, he's so crazy. Like, he's actually insane. And I, like, and like, Salone would like, he was just so crazy. It's like, it's literally a book review about Asa just being crazy as fuck. Like, I obviously love the romance between Salone and Carter. It was like cute, it was whatever. I just think something like Asa's like the big thing for me with this book. Like the way she wrote him and the way she like we got to know his past and like how he got to be who he was and like learning more about his mental health and all that stuff. It was just like so interesting to like see that much into an abusive mindset. And usually sometimes you see an abusive mindset and they're usually like, oh, I gotta work on myself, or I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. But like Asa wasn't like that. Asa wasn't the kind of person to like hit Salone and then like apologize and then like buy flowers and then try to be nice for the next 3 weeks to like make up for it before he hit her again. Asa was the kind of person like he'd hit her and then he'd be like, I was supposed to do that, or she made me do that. It's your fault. I'm right and you're wrong. And in his own head, he would like justify it. And when he would start justifying that shit, I'd be like, this man is such a lost cause. It's not even funny. Like, it's like, I have never, and it's scary to think that there's actual men or women out there like that it's just scary. That man is a scary, like the whole, like, it was just like one thing after another was just crazy with this book. Like I said, the fucking getting the ring glued on, literally her, like, fucking Carter in the car right outside Asa's house and the party and shit like that. Them fucking in front of Asa and shit like that. I was just like, bro, there's so much with this book. The only thing I didn't like is the 6 epilogues. I don't know what that was about. I felt, it felt weird. I don't know. I felt like there was at one point where I felt like we were good, or we could have wrapped up the book, or the book could have been finished, and then she just added more to it, which is fine. I just thought it was interesting that she decided to do that. And I also thought it was interesting with the whole baby situation, with us not knowing whose baby it actually is. Like, a part of me is like, it really could be either or, because like the closeness of when they were having sex, where she felt pressure to have sex with Asa, when she was falling in love with Carter, the intertwines were so close and shit like that, that it was like one of those things where you really didn't know whose kid it was. And I thought that I appreciate that they ended up not like getting a DNA test, or they didn't end up looking into it, because like Carter's thing was like, or Luke, I keep calling him Carter, but Luke's thing was like, I don't care, Asa's kid or my kid, it's my kid. The Asa's nothing, that's my kid. No matter what DNA says, that's my kid. And I just like love the fuck out of that, appreciated that. And like, I feel like this is the one book that I read, it's hard for me to give a book review to, because it was just like, it wasn't that so much happened in the book, because a lot of shit happened, and there wasn't like an overall crazy plot line with this book. But there's, like I said, there's just something about being in the head of the abuser, being in the head of the victim, and then being in the head of somebody on the outside, seeing that relationship. And it was just something like, I just loved the 3 point of view situations. I loved being in a party and then us alternating between 3 different people in that party. I thought it was just so interesting and well done. I just really liked it. And I don't know, you know, you guys definitely let me in the comments know what you guys thought with like Asa's whole thing being like, him being like, you know, bipolar, or you know, his whole dad's situation, his dad pretty much like killing his mom. I'm pretty sure that's what I got out of that whole thing. Like, I just like, there's just so much with this like book, with like little things, even though there isn't a huge plot line. Like, I even really liked the scenes of Luke and Sloane going and meeting her brother, and them having that weird like way that they talk when they, you know, spell things out weird and it means something else. There was just so many things with this book where it was like, it was just so interesting to see this perspective of a book. And I don't think I've never read anything like that before, and I've never read anything where you got to see that side of an abuser before, and you got to see that side of the victim, and then her internally struggling with being in that household, and her being in that situation, and her feeling like she had no choice but to be there, because who else was going to pay for her brother's care? She didn't have the money, and she was under the impression that like they fucking cut her fucking funding off and shit. So like, I just couldn't imagine being in Salone's shoes. I felt for the girl, like I really did. Like, that was my bitch. I felt for her every time some shit would happen. Like, my skin would crawl. I'd be on the edge of my toes every fucking time Ace would walk in the room with this girl. I would be on my toes. I'd be like, what are you doing now? Leave her alone. You know, leave her alone, bro. Like, let her leave. That's what I kept, let her leave. I'm like, bro, I'll like tag my TikToks in the bottom. I have 2 videos that are part 1, part 2 of my TikToks of when I was reading these. Like, I made, like, something would happen, and I literally would have to make a clip, because I'd be like, that did not just fucking happen. So, like, I'm going to leave a link in my description below for my TikTok, and you guys should be able to see the video for my Too Late if you wanted to see any more elaborate feelings of what I felt while I read it. Like, I think this is probably one of my whatever type of reviews, because I just don't know how to give a review for this one. Like I said, it was just so good. Obviously, it wasn't like the plot wasn't huge. It wasn't like they went and did a bunch of stuff, or like there was a crazy twist ending or anything like that. It was just, like I said, it was just interesting to see those kinds of perspectives, and to see like how all that played out. Like, Asa was he was just so crazy. Like, he was in the courtroom after all that happened, and she was crying because he was getting released and shit, or he was getting a less sentence than she expected, and he full on thought that this woman was crying for him. When I read that, I was like, this is a different kind of crazy. It really fucking, that's a different that's a different kind of crazy. For you to like, for him to have gone through all of this with Salome, have gone through all of this with Carter, and for him to be like, she still loves me. That's my girl. And I was just like, you are delusional. I like, when you guys, if you end up watching that TikTok, I say the word delusional like 60 times. Like, he was delusional, crazy, insane, narcissistic, manipulative. Every name in the book, that's what Asa was. And I just remember reading this whole book, and every time, like, he would exceed my expectations with being crazy. And I just thought it was so interesting to read a point of view of that kind of person. And that's just, I think, what I ended up liking the most about the book, which is fucked up. But I really just thought it was interesting to see Asa's point of view of being a manipulator and being an abusive piece of crap, but then him just justifying that in his head. Because you always wonder how people can live with themselves when they are that kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, how do you live with yourself when you, like, beat on somebody you love and when you're a piece of shit to somebody you love? And to know that he didn't feel bad at all makes it even crazier. Like, he didn't feel bad about anything. In his head, he was all justified for everything that he did. Insane. Like, insane. Everything is all Salome's fault, and he was in the right every fucking time. And I was like, you are crazy! You are insane! Fucking crazy! But yeah, I think that's the best I can give for a fucking review. Like I said, definitely go in the comments, guys. We can talk about all the, like, let's make a bunch of, like, make a list of every time fucking Ace is psycho as fuck. Like, oh my god, this guy is, like, insane. But, like, and him cheating on her all the time, but God forbid she looks at another woman. Insane. 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 But, like, yeah, I give the overall book 3.5 out of 5, 4 out of 5 stars, because I really, like I said, I really enjoyed the aspect of it. It's nothing like I've read before, and like I said, those POVs were just, like, I just really enjoyed it. But yeah, definitely comment below. Let me know what you thought about the book. Let me know what your favorite parts were. If you didn't like the book, let me know why you didn't like the book, you know? Or if you haven't read it, you obviously aren't at this part in the video, so I don't know why I said that. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I'm always live in those comment sections, so any book recommendations you have for me to read, or any videos or anything you kind of want to see, just let me know in the comments. We'll see what we can end up doing. But like I said, I'm always live in those comment sections because I love talking about books, so I will always be there to talk about Too Late, or any other Colleen Hoover books, or any other books that I might have read. I will talk about it. I will let you know if I read it or not, if you comment about it. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and y'all have a good one. Deuces.